You know, I think puzzles are boring. The solution to that puzzle was the brick. Puzzles have always been a staple of video game gameplay, but recently they have started to step out of their own genre and become ubiquitous across the medium. But you may ask, how? How? I'm getting to that. The puzzling perplexities that are perpetually plopped on our plate have created such an addicting loop that they find themselves in every sort of game. So today on Blurbs, let's look at the games that define puzzles, the games that refined puzzles, and the games where we find puzzles. First off, let's look at the experiences that have defined the history of puzzle video games. And the first game in that category is Tetris. You know Tetris, I don't need to explain it. But as far as its impact on the gaming industry goes, Tetris is what put puzzle games on the map. It's a game that spawned 1,000 games, proving that stories and worlds might be cool, but an addicting loop of satisfying solutions will enrapture the hearts and minds of millions. Tetris was historically large. Hell, they put that thing on the brick. No. And ultimately, while Tetris might have little to do with the puzzle games we see now, it was so influential in the genre getting a start as a whole. The next game that helped to define puzzles was Portal. If you're anything like me, you're depressed. But also you played Portal growing up as a kid. So many people have experienced Valve's game design masterpiece. So many people have been perplexed by its odd inquisitions. So many people have loved to hate GLaDOS, and so many people have been drawn to a multitude of other puzzle experiences because of Portal. Portal's simple mechanic of holes in the wall that can transport you from place to place or objects from place to place is stretched and molded in so many unique ways that each new room brings an enthralling sense of discovery. Whether you're going at it alone or taking it on with a friend, it's a masterpiece of game design, one that will always be a staple of the puzzle genre. But the final game that would go on to define the puzzle genre as we know it now is Braid. In 2024, we have an indie gaming scene that is made up of 25 to 30% of puzzle games. And you may ask how I got that number, and ultimately, I made it up. But regardless, so many of my favorite indie games that release now are puzzle games, and a big reason for that is Braid. Braid's time-bending mechanic turned a simple platformer into a game with incredible depth and entertaining puzzles. I don't love Braid. I think that there are far better versions of it to be played today. But it's undeniable that Braid is one of the most important puzzle games because of how it impacted the indie gaming scene. It proved that focused experiences could use a core mechanic to create a deep well of gameplay, and that loop was perfectly suited for the puzzle genre. Next, let's look at the games that refined puzzles, the ones that brought them into the modern era. And the first of this lot is the massively successful game, The Witness. Witness? More like witness this! Hey. The Witness is one of the hardest puzzle games ever conceived, pushing you to your limits and proving no matter how smart you think you are, this funny tile thing will screw you up. But its difficulty is what creates its excellence, as every solve leaves you feeling like a mastermind. In this way, it's the Dark Souls of puzzle games, and I, the IGN reviewer, give it a 7 out of 10. Not enough graphic. But in all honesty, while The Witness is simple on the surface, the way it uses the world outside of its tablets is fascinating, and the game consistently bends your mind in ways you could never expect. The next game that has refined the puzzle genre is Baba Is You. Similar to The Witness, Baba Is You will push you to your creative limits, but it cuts to the fat and makes the game entirely about these puzzles. Puzzles which use code-based logic to pick your thought and open up your third eye. Playing Baba Is You is both an enthralling experience and a true test of patience as you work to line up all the phrases to make sense of the level structure, and at the end of it, Baba is you, and you is feeling pretty good about the solutions. Cocoon is the final example of the refined iterations of puzzle games we see now, and where the other two in this section push your brain to its limits, Cocoon pushes design to its limits. Most of the solutions are somewhat easy to find and usually pull on intuition rather than deep thought, but uncovering each secret and opening up each pathway leaves the player in a sense of awe. The mechanic of these orbs housing entire worlds and altering gameplay based on what they are used for can feel overwhelming, but the game always aids the player in discovery, and ultimately Cocoon proves excellent in both design and in polish. Now we move into the final section, which serves as proof that games don't need to be singularly minded on puzzles to make an impact that reverberates throughout the genre. And first, in games where we find puzzles, we have Inside. Inside is barely a puzzle game, but that's what makes it an important piece of the genre. By riding the line of cryptic story, adventure, and light puzzler, Inside has become one of the most beloved indie games to date. It uses its puzzles as a platter in which it delivers an enthralling story. The solutions are typically simple, but work well within the setting, as the pressure to uncover them quickly in order to avoid the forces that attempt to hunt you down keeps you on the edge of your seat at all times. In this way, Inside uses the puzzle genre to create something incredibly unique and entirely impactful. The next game that we find puzzles in is Outer Wilds. Of the many hats worn by the Outer Wilds, I think this one is the prettiest. It's a sun hat. But in all seriousness, Outer Wilds' puzzles are the hat which stands out the most, because for all of its space exploration, all of its interesting characters, and all of its deep mysteries, its core puzzle, which you spend the entirety of the game unraveling, is at the heart of its design, as each discovery tethers together the web that is the fascinating story of how this solar system got in its current conundrum. There are a lot of fancy words I could use to sum up the puzzle at the heart of Outer Wilds, but really the only way to understand it is by experiencing it for yourself. And the final game in which we find puzzles is Animal Well. At its heart, Animal Well is both puzzle game and Metroidvania, but the areas in which its puzzle elements shine the brightest are its secrets. I have discussed this in a previous video, but Animal Well's Easter eggs are a centerpiece of its intricate design. Using its tools to mix and match codes, uncover areas, and understand oddities is a captivating loop that takes puzzles to a whole nother level. I am almost positive that Animal Well will go on to inspire multitudes of other indie puzzle games, all which will attempt to push the boundaries of game design and innovate in unique ways. And for that, Animal Well has cemented itself as one of the most important games in the puzzle genre. Puzzles have permeated into every inch of the gaming scene, whether we like it or not. Some of our favorite games contain puzzles or are large-scale puzzles in themselves. From the simple roots of Tetris to the complex open-world interconnectivity of Outer Wilds, discovering secrets, clicking together interconnecting webs, and unlocking the mysteries of a dark world are some of the many things they open up to the player. Puzzles and the unique ways developers are bringing them into the fold have become necessary pieces of design and ultimately make gaming a whole lot better. That was the video, and I hope you enjoyed. But before I go, I must thank my wonderful patrons. We have Avon, Mr. Kairu, Nickel Simba, I Want an Apple, Spider-Man on my new PS5, Johnny Hammerstick, and Bandwagon. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and thank you all for watching the video.